guys, welcome back to another video. As you guys can see, I got a little bit of a fresh cut. Decided to change it up a little bit. That's probably the first thing you notice. Anyways, today, as you guys can see by the title, we are doing something just a little bit different. I thought it would be a fun idea to just revisit some books that I've read when I was much younger, whether that be in grade school, middle school, and just talk about these series that really solidified my love for reading beyond like kids books when I was very little, and got me more into like reading what I am reading now, and just that sort of foundation of my tastes in reading. Now I am going to be mentioning a specific book that I actually DNF'd when I was like in middle school, just because I was inspired by a video that my boy Matt's Fantasy Book Reviews just did. I watched his video and I was like, you know what, I'm going to include this book in this video too, just to give me an excuse to talk about it. But yeah, we have 5 books here, and I'm going to be talking about their respective series as well. And so yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. If you guys do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, because I would greatly appreciate it. And be sure to check out the Discord server channel down in the description below, full of nerdy people, talk about some cool stuff. And yeah, be sure to join, we'd love to have you, and let's get right into it. Now, the first thing I'm going to talk about is probably something that doesn't ever need to be talked about again. It's one of the most popular YA novels just of all time, or novel series, and that of course is Harry Potter. I read this series back when I was in elementary school, I think when I was like in 4th grade, and this was the most advanced book that I had read at the time. Well, I'm holding up Goblet of Fire because this is my personal favorite in the series, and these covers right here, like this specific printing, I just like. Anyways, I think I got the first book at like they did this thing in, what was it, 3rd grade, where you could get like a free book, and I chose the first Harry Potter book, and then I didn't read it until 4th grade. And then in 4th grade, I basically read the entire series, just because once I read that first book, I was absolutely hooked. It was one of the first times I ever was like really wanting to go to like a bookstore to find a specific book. And of course they had Harry Potter. It's not like it was much of a hunt, but yeah, I mean, I remember going to the nearby bookstore to where I lived at the time. It was a small used bookstore that I wish I could remember the name of. Really wish I could go back to. But yeah, picked up Chamber of Secrets on like a rainy day. It was kind of a vibe. Anyways, besides the point, this was like the best thing I'd read at the time. I absolutely loved it. Like I said, this book, Goblet of Fire, is where the series, I think, really starts to get a bit darker. And of course, the whole point of the series is like, the point is for you to follow the main characters as they grow up. So you're supposed to kind of age with them. At least that's the point, as like the books were releasing. But me as a 4th grader, reading them all like back to back to back to back, I could definitely notice a tone shift, and I was a big fan of that. Reading something a little bit grittier and darker. One thing I absolutely love about these novels is the mystery aspect. Each book has a mystery that is presented towards the beginning, and then it all comes together at the end, and all the clues. You should see stuff coming, you know. Yeah, I mean, I just ate that stuff up when I was little. And yeah, that's Harry Potter. I'm pretty sure I never finished Deathly Hallows, if I'm being completely honest. I think by the time I reached the 7th book, I read half of it and then just became uninterested and never finished it. I guess that's a little bit of a sin, but I'm pretty sure that's the truth. I'm not sure. Maybe I finished it, but I'd seen the movies like 100 times, so it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, I'm just gonna say I read all of them. There was actually a book that I forgot to grab, so I went ahead and grabbed that real quick. So I guess there's, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books that we're going to be talking about. Anyways, the next book, this is one of my favorite series growing up, and that is Percy Jackson, and really all of Rick Riordan's stuff. I read Percy Jackson. I think I read the first book in 5th grade. After I got done reading Harry Potter, I read the first book and then never continued it until like 6th grade, sometime in middle school. And then I reread the first book and continued with the series and absolutely loved it. I mean, much like Harry Potter, I just ate that stuff up, being really interested and familiar somewhat with the Greek mythology stuff. As well as it being like another one of those things where you definitely grow up with the characters. And I don't know if this is a little bit of a hot take or whatever, but I do think that the Percy Jackson series is definitely more fun than Harry Potter. And I think that in the grand scheme of things, I got way more enjoyment out of the Percy Jackson series than I did Harry Potter. While Harry Potter is very good, it definitely is more cozy, especially like in the holiday scenes and stuff. Man, those are my favorite parts, where it's snowing outside and they're in the castle. Absolutely love that. But for the most part, they're in a single location for the entire book. Now this does get changed up a little bit from time to time. They may, at least in like the later books, they do go different places. But for the most part, they're either at Harry's house, Hogwarts, or Hogsmeade. But what I liked about Percy Jackson, which was much different, is it was a quest. They went all across the country to all these different locations, and I think that's part of the reason why it made it more fun. It was an adventure, paired with something that I was already familiar with, being Greek mythology, and mixing that into it too, with a bit of mystery aspects, especially come like the 4th book or 3rd book. And there's just, I don't know, there's a lot going on. I don't think it leans as much into the mystery, like the whodunit kind of thing that the Harry Potter series does, but there definitely is some of that in it, and I love that part too. But I think, yeah, mostly because of the quest aspect, and it seemed to like less of a drama. Harry Potter is definitely a bit of a drama, like a school drama, but yeah, this is definitely just like an adventure quest kind of thing, and that's why I think that the Percy Jackson series is, if not better than Harry Potter, is at least more enjoyable. After Percy Jackson, I think I hopped right into another series, being the Heroes of Olympus. And what this is it's a continuation of the Rick Riordan's like Percy Jackson story, but it's just expanded. It's a bit darker and made for a little bit more of an older audience. I think this is, I don't know the right term for it, but this is more of like a kids series, and this is more of like a YA kind of thing. Yeah, this series was dope. I really liked it. It was my first experience with a multi-POV story. So that was something interesting, and that definitely prepared me going into like A Song of Ice and Fire, which I read when I was either in 8th grade or like a freshman or something. This prepared me for that, with the multi-POV thing and being introduced to, I guess, a larger story, because the world is so broad, with all of these different points of view. And going into A Song of Ice and Fire, it wasn't as jarring than it probably would have been. I will say that the first book, The Lost Hero, that going into that, it was a little bit odd to me, because you're not following Percy like you did for the other books, and that just wasn't my favorite part about it. Like, I was like, oh, I want Percy, I don't care about these people. I definitely grew to like the characters that we are following in this book, or in this series, I mean, other than Percy and Annabeth and whatever. But going into it, it just was kind of eh. But then we're introduced to a major plot point, and that is that Percy has gone missing. And that is where we go into the second book here, where we follow Percy, and he lost all of his memories. Now, a lot of people don't like the whole amnesia thing, but I think that this was well done because we're already familiar with the character. We know their feats, we know their past, because we read about it all in the previous series. So we're following a really powerful character who we are already familiar with, just he doesn't know it. And watching him trying to piece things together from his past, and all until it all comes together, is really amazing. And I think that was one of the second book is what really got me. The first book, once we find out the whole Percy's missing, that's what made it really worth reading for me and really engaging. But then once we actually get to meet Percy in this series with his amnesia or whatever, that was just dope. And of course he remembers everything at some point, but yeah, just the scale of the story too got a lot larger, which was cool. The Percy Jackson series was really just confined to the United States, but in this series they go to like Rome and Italy and Greece, I believe. So they travel like the open ocean at some point, and they go to Europe. So definitely the scale and the story becomes a lot more broad than it was before. So that was also really dope. And like mentioned before, with the multi-POVs, that allows you to experience a bunch of different locations in this more broader story and broader map or playground that they have here, that Riordan's playing with the characters, putting them in different places. Just all of that was new to me, and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, that's where I stand with that. Next up is a book that I read only this book of. It's a series, but I read the first book when I was, again, like 5th grade. This is actually a copy that my friend's dad gave, or my dad's friend gave to me. I think he gave it to my dad to give to me, whatever. And that book is Ender'S Game. This is, everybody knows Orson Scott Card, one of the sci-fi goats. Yeah, I don't remember a whole lot about this book. I remember reading it and enjoying it. I had watched the movie that they did of Ender'S Game with Harrison Ford. I really enjoyed the movie. I really liked the aspect of, I don't know, just this kind of awkward character and going to like this academy and basically playing like a tabletop RPG, and then he realizes, oh shoot, it's like real life and they're killing all these aliens and stuff. I thought that was dope. And yeah, reading about it was cool. Again, don't remember a whole lot. This might be a series I have to revisit in the future. I know that there's definitely more than this book, and there's like multiple books that are from another character's point of view of the same events, I believe. It's something like that. But yeah, from Ender's point of view, this book, it was good. I enjoyed it. Alright, so this is going to be like where it gets a little controversial, probably, if not the whole Harry Potter being lesser than Percy Jackson argument that I had. This is sort of that part I was talking about with Matt that I wanted to throw in here, and that is the Dark Tower, Gunslinger here. When I was in like 8th grade, my uncle hyped up this series because I guess he had binge read them at some point at work, and he really enjoyed it. He told me about how weird it is, but also how cool it is. I don't know how much of a spoiler what I'm about to say is, so if you're afraid of spoilers for this series, I just skip like 30 seconds. But he told me that this dude, he's like the last gunslinger, right? And his guns that he has, like his revolvers, are like Excalibur, but they're like smelted down or something like that. Again, I don't really know the full context about it because I haven't read all of the series. But just that idea was dope as hell. A gunslinger in like a Western fantasy with guns that are, you know, what I just said. That was dope. And that was all I needed to really go into this book. And not to mention, like, the opening line about, like, the man in black or whatever. That's awesome. My problem was that just reading this book was very difficult for me at the time. King's prose is very hard for me to get into. At least that's what I experienced with this book. I haven't tried any of his other stuff, and to be honest, I don't really care to. I'm not a big fan of like horror. I like horror aspects in my fantasy and my sci-fi, but just reading horror is kind of lame to me, and it's something I'm completely uninterested in. Which is why when I heard that he had like a cool Western fantasy kind of thing, that's why I was like, oh, maybe I'll try him out through this. I think I got like maybe 50 pages in or something like that. And yeah, I just wasn't having it. I didn't really know what was going on. I think it was jumping around in time or something. The prose, it was just difficult for me to get engrossed in what was happening, and I DNF'd it. I probably need to revisit it at some point. I know Matt, he read the first 2 books, didn't care for them, and the second book is apparently where it's supposed to get like good. And a lot of people have problems with this first book, and they say, oh, wait until the second book. But even him, he didn't like the second book. And I know, I mean, him and I are 2 different people, but if I already had problems with this first book, I don't know, it might not be worth revisiting fully, but I think at some point I'll definitely give this another read. Yeah, I don't know. But 8th grade me wasn't having it. And I kind of thought that maybe it was a problem with like my reading level or just my age at the time. But honestly, I don't think that's really the case at all, because not but a few months later did I start reading A Song of Ice and Fire, which is definitely more advanced than, you know, Harry Potter and Percy Jackson. So I don't think it was a case of me not being able to comprehend it because of like whether that be my reading level or just maturity, I guess. I think it was just me unable to adapt to this prose. And the final thing that I am going to be talking about today is yet again more Rick Riordan, and that is Magnus Chase. This is like my hardcover I got, and I was pretty proud of finding this. I think I found it at Second and Charles for like $5 or something for this hardcover when I was younger, and I thought like I had won the lottery. Anyways, you guys know I like Norse mythology. I talked about Vikings and stuff. I like all that stuff. I'm currently reading Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. I've talked about this a few times now, and absolutely eating that up. So it's probably no surprise that, you know, I enjoyed Percy Jackson so much. Why not read Magnus Chase, which is just Norse Percy Jackson pretty much, which I did. I read the first 2 books of this trilogy, and I would have continued had I had found the 3rd book. What I was trying to do was collect them in the hardcovers here. I got the first 2 in hardcover. Then I again found it Second and Charles years ago for really, really cheap, and then I could never find the 3rd one, and that was honestly the reason why I never picked it up and read it. It's just because I didn't want to pay full price for the hardcover. Not that it's an expensive hardcover, it's just kind of like that defeated the purpose of my goal, I guess. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, I enjoyed this for the most part. It wasn't excellent. Percy Jackson and Heroes of Olympus was definitely far, far superior. But the Norse aspects of it and like dealing with the mythology and stuff was weird, and I liked it that way because Norse mythology is naturally weird. Like compared to Greek mythology, which I mean, Greek mythology, don't get me wrong, has a lot of weird things about it, but I feel like Norse mythology, based on what I know of it compared to Greek, it's just like you take the weirdness dial and crank it up a little bit. You know what I mean? It's very odd, and so messing around with that weirdness and exploring it more through these characters was very fun. This was a funny book too. That's something that Reardon does pretty well, is making a serious story and making it fun and really adapting the humor into it very well. It doesn't seem overdone or cheesy. I think the humor works really well, at least for me. It's not like laugh out loud kind of humor, but it's kind of like makes you smile a little bit as you're reading. And it's not like, that wasn't funny. And it's not like you feel like it's trying to be funny, but it just comes off as if it just is lighthearted, I guess, and kind of fun. Anyways, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Again, never finished the series. It was dope, though, exploring, like, the 9 realms, I think. Because in Norse mythology, they have, like, the different dimensions and stuff. With like the world tree, the Yggdrasil or whatever. So exploring all these dimensions with all these different gods and their domains made it really fun compared to Percy Jackson. That was something that was different that I think I liked more, was how the gods themselves were handled, and they seemed to have like they seemed more mysterious, and like they had their own domains and stuff. That was something that I liked more in Magnus Chase here than I did in Percy Jackson. But overall, I mean, if you're a fan of Percy Jackson and Heroes of Olympus, this is something you should definitely read. This main character here, he ties into like the greater story. He's like Annabeth's cousin, and I think Percy makes an appearance at some point, maybe in the 3rd book or at the end of the 2nd book or something like that, which is really cool because I'm a fan of Percy Jackson as a character. I think he's just really cool. I vibed with him a lot in middle school, so there's that. And yeah, I mean, it's just fun. Anyways, guys, that is going to about do it for today. Just me rambling and kind of talking about series I read as a kid. And yeah, hopefully you guys have a bit of a better understanding of where I'm coming from as far as my foundation of reading, all this stuff that I have now. I didn't even bother to mention Saxon Tales, which again I also read in middle school, which I have a whole video dedicated to that over on my other channel that I did before I made this channel, so go check that out. It's my favorite series of all time. And yeah, I just didn't bother to mention it. Anyways, thank you all for watching. If you did enjoy me talking about this stuff, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, because I would greatly appreciate it. We've got some more book reviews coming. I'm currently reading the new Sanderson book, the Wizard's Handbook. So be expecting a video on that later, either in this month or next month. I also have a review for that book, Cursed by Thomas Wheeler, which that was kind of, never mind. I'll just save it for my review. Yeah, so be expecting more coming from me. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.